All right. Let's make sure we're mic'd up and ready to rock. As always, if you hear anything that sounds out of the ordinary, please let me know. But I think everything looks good on my end, so we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, good. As Dungeon Masters, I feel as though we have all experienced this moment. We've handcrafted a beautifully memorable NPC. We've put our heart and soul into creating someone memorable for our players, and they just fall flat. Something about that NPC doesn't get noted. They get ignored for Boblin the Goblin. They get murder hoboed by our players. Something happens, and the value of that NPC is completely lost on our players. And in this episode, what we're going to be talking about is 3 really easy things that we can do to create genuinely valuable NPCs so that when we are playing the game, our players are encountering things that are important to them and therefore valuing them, and they become a useful aspect of our game. So as we move forward, keep that in mind, and of course, let's master the game. Instagram, please come on over to YouTube, follow my bio link, come hang out with us. All right, so as we are moving forward, I'm just going to write these 3 things down so that I can make sure that we get to them. But the first thing that we need to do when we're making a valuable NPC is have an appearance. Of course, we need to know what they look like. And that can be easy to do, but it often goes by the wayside when we are winging it. When we're just improvising an NPC, it can often go forgotten, and we just kind of lacklusterly toss this NPC out there because they asked to know who the innkeeper was or who owns the smith, and so on and so forth. So it's something that we can be cognizant of, and it goes towards making that memorable NPC. And of course, the second aspect of creating a memorable NPC is how we portray them, right? This is their quirks, their traits, the mood, kind of the general demeanor of this NPC, who they are, and how they are presented to us. And then, you know what? I'm going to actually talk about these first, and then we'll hook in our third. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So these 2 things can really go towards, I've used the word memorable. And a memorable NPC is very different than a valuable NPC. And here's the difference. It's what I call the Boblin principle, right? The Boblin principle is simply that any NPC that can interest your players will interest your players. And so if you create an aspect of their appearance that is unique or interesting, your players are going to be interested in that NPC. It's literally that simple. But because, here's the quest giver, right? And we could describe the most interesting man in the world. And our players will look at that and say, well, this is a fantasy world that actually kind of is run of the mill. What's another dude with a scar? Or what's another dude with a peg leg? Like, every pirate has a peg leg. What do you want here, right? But then when we describe, there's a quiet goblin in the corner. Ooh, let's go talk to them. Suddenly, the interest is in them. And so there's an aspect of creating things that are going to be interesting to your players specifically, right? If you have that player at the table that is absolutely fascinated with the tabaxi, simply because you've got a fun tabaxi voice or whatever, right? Because that is how you portray those NPCs. how we portray them, that quirk or that trait, really goes into making memorable NPCs. And memorable's good. Memorable is nice. It's always fun to have that NPC that you talk about because it was cool or fun or exciting. That's all well and good. But what we need as dungeon masters or game masters, we're trying to master the game here, we need an NPC that is valuable, that brings value to our side of the screen. It's the situation where, okay, you've made the coolest NPC in the world, but they have nothing to do with the story. Right? They have no aspect of their creation has anything to do with the story. They are no longer a valuable NPC to the table. They're just memorable. It's just honky-dory that we're bringing along Boblin the Goblin because he's fun. It's fun and exciting and some fun NPC interaction and so on and so forth. The role play's there. Okay, that's great. The kicker here is we are creating something here that we need to be able to see. We need to be able to see our NPC. We need to be able to feel our NPC or relate to our NPC. And then our NPC needs to give us something for our players to discover. And this is the moment that our NPC becomes valuable to the table. Is the moment that they have a hook, right? And here is the little tidbit secret for you is it doesn't matter who it is. The only thing that you actually need to prepare ahead of time is what is going to bring value to your table. This is the only thing that matters. This is what brings value. Whatever the, I guess you could say, delivery system of your hook, that's all that this is. The appearance, the portrayal, that is the delivery system for what is actually bringing value to your table. And that is the hook. And you can create a hook ahead of time, right? You can make this first. Make first. Boom. And then you can make the NPC to fit the hook. Here's what I mean by that. One of my favorite activities as a game master that I've been told isn't necessarily very common is I love creating NPCs with the players at the table. That way, as I ask them, okay, you walk into the room, what is we'll use an example from actually a very recent session. What is a memorable or outstanding aspect of the appearance of this NPC? And it was Speaker Antol. And the first person, as I went around the table, everyone got to describe one specific thing that stood out to them about Speaker Antol, who is the essentially a cult leader of the Heartwood Order, a kind of druidic cult. And Speaker Antol turned into, I did not design them like this. I had come up with an appearance and how I was going to portray them, but then I decided to engage my players and invest them into this NPC. And as they did, they painted a completely different NPC than I had personally created, and it worked out better for this reason. As they incorporated some little aspect of something that they enjoyed or loved or thought would be fun for the idea of the character, they were inherently investing a little bit of their personal selves into this NPC. And here's the power here. If you have murder hobos, you need to be doing this often. Why? Because if your player has had actual engagement and actually helped you create your NPC for the moment, they are not going to just kill them because they helped create it. They helped create it by providing something that was interesting to them. Like, you literally specifically asked them, hey, so-and-so, what is something interesting that you notice about Speaker Antol, or this NPC, or the shopkeep? Oh, well, the first thing that stands out is just the absolute morbid obesity of this character. Like he needs servants to help him move around because of how genuinely rotund this character is. And then it just kind of devolved into turning Speaker Antol into this nasty, vile creature with sausage fingers, and he just talks like this, and I'm so very happy that you could be here today. Yes. And that developed out of all of the little tidbits that my players provided at the table. And so we combined
the appearance, something that was memorable about them, how I would portray that aspect of them, and then the hook that I had already made ahead of time. Right? This is the hook, the quest, the plot. I had already made this, and I just gave it to
this NPC that the entire table came together to make. And because the entire table came together to make it, everybody at the table was hugely invested in this NPC. It was so much fun to talk to this super memorable NPC, and suddenly the hook that he gave us, that he gave the table, was meaningful to them. It had value. Oh, okay. Because we have a vested interest in this NPC, it became immediately powerful and valuable to our players. Uh-oh. We're echoing for some reason. Why are we echoing? Guys. Weird sound. Why? Why is it suddenly echoing? Main mic. Auxiliary main mic. Looks good. Are we better? Maybe I was just talking too loud and the mic was having a hard time. I was getting excited. Yeah, so... Sorry, everybody. Hopefully it was at least legible. You could hear what I had going on there. All right. Well, that's weird. Sorry. So, these are the three things. Okay, fine now. Thanks, Stephen. Appreciate it. Thanks, Hans. So, when we look at this, right, to recap, okay, this is something that our players see, the appearance. This is simply the description, right? We can help describe our players and use your players to help you describe your NPCs. I had imagined Speaker Antol as a razor-thin kind of Severus Snape character with greasy black hair, and he was completely different. What the players imagined this kind of cult leader to be was totally different than what I had imagined. So you can use that to describe them. The portrayal, how they feel, this is a lot of like the quirks, the traits of the character. And this is kind of the personality, right? What you see is very different than how someone feels. You can see that someone is kind of dirty or sleazy, but then you talk to them and they feel refined for some reason, and it paints the picture in the player's mind of who that character is, and it's very different because of how they feel. And if you help your players, if your players help you incorporate how they feel about the character, I had one player, actually it was the first time at my table, and he was kind of uncomfortable with how I build NPCs in the spur of the moment. I was like, hey, what's something that you find distinctive about this NPC? And the first time he kind of fell flat with it, but then the second time we came around the table and he understood the assignment, and he described how as this NPC walked past, there was a cold aura just kind of washing off of him. Kind of like the feeling, we described it as the feeling of a popsicle on a warm summer day, where you can just feel the cold just kind of emanating from this character. And that really helped describe how this character felt. And it helped me in my portrayal of this cold and darkened demeanor. And that was enormously helpful to me. It took so much weight off of my shoulders as the game master, because now I was instantly, in that instant, portraying the NPC that they had imagined. It takes so much of the guesswork out of it. And you're going to find as you do this, your players are not going to just hobo around town anymore, because they look forward to it. It's so much fun. Your players will start looking forward to going to new places just so that they can get to know the NPCs. And then they will, because they're memorable, they helped make them. They are definitely memorable. Because they're memorable, your players will return to these places hungry to interact with those NPCs again. Not just, oh, let's just stab him and take his stuff. Like, oh, he's not going to give us a discount on spell scrolls. Like, just like shank him and burn his house down. Like, no. Because your players helped you develop the goblin shopkeep, who has, kind of a ratty cloak, but you can tell from the silk lining inside that it emanates with power. And that is a cool moment. And suddenly your players are like, oh, hey, this is awesome. So essentially what we're doing to boil all this down, to sift this out, is we are creating the Boblin Principle. Remember, the Boblin Principle is if an NPC can interest your players, it will interest your players. They will be distracted. They will go full squirrel mode and follow whatever NPC tickles their fancy. So why not use your players? Hey, essentially, what interests you about this NPC? And you are creating their own Boblin, right? Hugely, hugely successful at my table. So much fun every time we do it. It creates a fun little world-building moment as we describe this new NPC that my players helped me build. So, if you're that dungeon master or game master that really struggles with, hey, I've made this beautiful, intricate NPC. He's all statted. I filled out a character sheet for him, but my players killed him. That's because, he was memorable to you, but he wasn't interesting to your players. He was just one in a pile of hundreds, or depending upon the size of your town, thousands, right? So take out the guesswork. Let your players do that for you. And then when we're talking about the actual stats, time for the meat and potatoes, the nitty-gritties, the details. When I'm actually statting an NPC, the only thing that I stat is their proficiencies. Everything else, I just give them the proficiency bonus, flat, whatever, right? So if they have a proficiency in insight, I'll make sure that I'm okay. Yeah, they've got a plus 6 in insight. Boom. I essentially just monster block most of my NPCs if they actually even really need stats. And that's just for a lot of the social interaction as a player tries to lie to them about something. Okay, cool, that's fine. They're allowed to roll deception as I roll my insight, and he's got a plus 6 to that, and that way I know that ahead of time. But how we build that, once again, kind of goes into how it is that we are trying to portray this NPC. But I'm actually kind of interested. Let's run through that. In the chat, we've got 5 people in the chat right now. 6 if we bring in Instagram today. Let's build an NPC. As you walk into the tavern, you see sitting in the shadowy corner someone interesting to you. Please, everybody, name something about this character that's interesting. What is standing out to you? about this character in the corner. Perhaps I'll describe a general class. They look to be barbaric, but not necessarily a frontline fighter. Like they come from a barbarian tribe, but they themselves probably don't rage. Right? How do we describe? What's something interesting that stands out to us about this character? As you guys are thinking about that, I'm going to reiterate the hook here. The hook is our quest. It is a secret for them to discover, right? By talking to this NPC, this memorable NPC, they can discover something important. This is a why, essentially. This is the why of talking to this NPC to begin with. Why should we go out on this quest? Ooh, Steven, I like that. Part of his right ear is cut off. Ooh, and so here's a question, Steven. Does it look to be a ritual injury? Or does it look to be from a battle? Is there more to the scar? Or does it look like ritually notched for some reason? That could give us further insight into this NPC. A pompadour haircut. Hans, I don't even know what that actually means. What is a pompadour haircut? Yes, the pompadour haircut. Does that mean it's balancing a knife on his nose? So especially dexterous. No wonder he's got a scar on his ear. He lost a knife. It took his ear once, right? Maybe he's got a couple of little nicks and scars from practicing that trick over the years. Ooh. What? Bad odor that travels with anyone or anything that he touches. Ooh, from teeth. Steven, I like that. So he got bit, essentially. You can even see the teeth marks in his ear. He's got an odor to him. As you approach in the corner, you can tell there's a reason he's alone in this corner. Because as you approach, there's just maybe a musky, I don't know if we call it body odor, but there's definitely like an animalistic scent. Ooh, I'm getting kind of like a druidic shapeshifter shaman sort of vibe from this character now. And so as I would go into like the quirks and traits, he's kind of almost like a Loki-esque kind of with the dagger on the nose thing, the bite from some fight at some point where he got bit before shape-shifting could be kind of fun. And then you've got kind of like this eccentric druid shapeshifter character, which is really fun. And all of that because we just whipped that out right here in just a few moments. And that is essentially how you do that with your table. You say, hey, so-and-so, what's something interesting? Oh, yeah, he does knife tricks. And, he's got a bite out of his ear. And he's got a really strong odor that literally, like, anything he touches, like, smells like wet dog, That's a really fun NPC, and because the table as a group made that fun NPC, they are invested in that fun NPC and engaged. You're pulling people off the phone, right? Getting people away from the app, whatever game they're playing, and playing your game right here, right now. Folks, that's all that I have for today. If we have any further questions, feel free to ask. I will hang out in the chat for just a moment. But in the meantime, have fun. And as always, take care of your players. My favorite part, the after party. Hey, if you haven't liked the video yet, please do so. It's helpful for the algorithms. YouTube has them just like every other app. So please like, follow, subscribe. It would be awesome too if you shared this because why not? So the investment is the side quest to remove the curse or cleanse yourself of the stench. Ooh, maybe it's like a side effect of the lycanthropy or something like that. So maybe it's not that he's a shapeshifter, but he's been cursed. And so there's even an additional kind of quest to aid this this shapeshifter or lycanthrope, if you will. So there could be kind of a fun. Oh, maybe he's like a ferret. He's got that version of lycanthropy where he just turns into a ferret, and you know they've got a really strong odor. That would at least give you a story reason for why he smells like that. This is just he constantly smells like his lycanthropic version. But all right, everybody, Hans, how do you discourage gaming the build? He has a big bag of money. Okay, I see. So, at the end of the day, we have to remember that it's still our NPC, right? So if we can tell, if we have those players that are just going to be ding-dongs about it, then I would encourage you to give them more specific instructions. So rather than give them free reign of like, oh, hey, what's something you notice about them? Well, they've got a big bag of money and I'm going to go steal it. Okay, thanks, bud. What is something about like their physical features that you notice? And really kind of narrow it down for that guy. Narrow it down for them so that they're not essentially manipulating the NPC. Because that's just them being a ding-dong, right? Like, yeah, it could be fun, but it's only fun for them. And it's not as fun for the rest of the table, unless you've got an entire table of ding-dongs, which many of us do, which, good luck. But we have to remember there's a point where roleplay, if someone is hijacking roleplay, that it's only fun for that one person. And it's no longer fun for the table. And there's 3, 4, 5 other people at the table that we are playing a game with. And if that player can't recognize that and just freaking shut their mouth for a second, then give them more specific instruction. Hey, that guy, what is interesting about the weapon that they carry? Ooh, okay, the weapon that they carry. Give them some specific aspect of the character. What's interesting about their cloak? Ooh, their cloak. Well, it kind of shimmers, and you can tell just by looking at it that it almost appears to blend into the booth around them. And that way it's... Yeah, okay, things I know. Turns out it's just a big bag of shiny rocks. Yeah, you could just dead end them, right? Let them do it. And then just say, okay, well, you steal the bag and it's a bag of rocks, right? Or it's their button collection, right? Or whatever, right? So there are other ways where you can just kind of like, okay, we're done playing that game. Thank you. Be done. But I would probably more specifically just say, hey, what is an aspect of, what's a facial feature that really stands out to you? Oh, well, they've got a bulbous nose. Okay, cool. Sweet. Thanks. And that is a way to still engage them, but kind of control how they engage. Great question, Hans. I like that. Thank you for asking. All right. Anything else? If not, a fingernail. Yeah. Well, actually, I have players who collect toes because there's one hag in like one city that will give them a discount for toes. Like she'll discount them, prices off of magical items if they bring her toes. And so literally for like the past 12 months of gaming, it has been anything that gets killed or has been killed, they cut the toes off of this thing so that they can take them back to Auntie Agatha the toe stealer and get a discount off of magical items. And that was just a fun, once again, way that we built that NPC, Auntie Agatha Toast Dealer. And it has been like kind of a running joke for the last year of that campaign. It's been super fun. So, to each their own. But, all right, y'all. I'm going to get off. It's been 30 minutes of me chit-chatting at you. Thank you so much for hanging out. Have a good night. I appreciate you for hanging out with me. So, good night.